Good morning. It's time for morning Oasis. I'll get used to having the headphones in when it's time to start someday. Let's see. I'm going to turn that off. And there we go. All right. So how are you guys this morning? It's 9 a.m. Oh no, it's 10 a.m. I couldn't make myself wake up this morning. I threatened to sleep in every day, and so far I'm on par. I slept until just about 20 minutes ago, so I'm still kind of waking up a little bit, still kind of coming into myself. Having my first cup of coffee, which I'm so grateful finished before it was time to start the show. So we have all spots are still open for card pulls. And let's see, morning announcements. I forgot to do announcements yesterday. That's just how tired I was and, not feeling well. Let me tell you, I think one of the shifts that's happening with this energy that's coming through right now is I'm not able to eat the way I used to. I did not have my iron stomach anymore. So I went out to dinner with a friend to an Indian buffet. Good morning. Good morning. And it just ripped up my stomach, man. It was not good. It did not, I didn't even eat very much. I had we get katoris, the little cups, and I had not even a full cup of their butter chicken and one of their aloo gobis, and it was awful. I am feeling better today, actually, Jesse. I am feeling much better. I just slept until until 20 minutes ago. Announcements. We are approaching another new moon. The new moon is going to be on Thursday. I'm thinking about doing another new moon meditation, but I'll leave that up to you guys. If you guys want the new moon meditation, then I'll do that. It's at 12:44 on Thursday, right in the middle of my recording time, but I can take, a half hour and we can do a meditation together. I'll leave that up to you guys. You guys let me know if you want that. Dinner with Jesse is sold out, but lunch with Jesse, and that's actually lunch at my house. You come here. Good morning, Michelle. It's why the tickets are more expensive. I provide you with lunch. I provide the meal. So you get to eat my cooking, basically, and be in my home, and we can chat and hang out, and everyone who comes in here is like, oh my God, so this is where the Oasis is formed. Oh, this is where this happens. So yeah, it's in my home, a male high point, so I'm up for it. All right. So the lunch with Jesse is July 1st. That's a Saturday afternoon. And that will be here in my home in Portland. What else is there? The chakra workshop is available on the website. I think, one of the things that I'm finding for people who are taking the workshop is how much they absolutely love the meditations that are in it. Then there's 2 full meditations with music by Kyle in them, and they're really powerful. So and they're informative. This is not like a normal chakra workshop. We don't look at chakras from the same perspective or that old modality-driven belief system. We really look at them from a completely different perspective, from the energetic perspective and how they're actually working and impacting us. So the chakra workshop is up and available. And then this week we're finishing off the meditation collection, the first set of the meditation collection. So that'll be coming out probably not next week, but the following week. And I think that's all of our announcements. So we have wide open 3 slots available for card pulls. Good morning, Cheryl. And anybody who wants to request one can. I figured what we would work on this week is mirroring versus projection, as we started on Monday, because it's a really big topic. And I thought today what we could really focus in on is understanding mirroring, just really understanding what's going on with mirroring. We oftentimes don't think of ourselves as in this constant play. Great, Ariel. I would love to pull a card for you. I don't think I've pulled for you before, have I? Cheryl would like one too. Great. So we don't often think about ourselves as being in this constant interplay with our environment, with our world. It's funny because for me, a rainy day, for instance, a rainy, drizzly, cold, gray day does not keep me in. That's not, I love those days. But a hot, super sunny, really hot day, those keep me in. And I'll just be honest, hot to me is 80 and above. I melt out there. I do not like the heat. And I burn really easily. I don't like being out in the heat at all. So those will keep me in. So on days where I have to get a lot of work done, I notice that the weather goes hot. Let's see. I think I missed somebody asking for something. Karen, you said you would like a new moon meditation. That's great. Okay, so it looks like I'll do the new moon meditation. It sounds like that's something that's desired. I did pull for you once before. Oh, great. Okay, so we have one more spot left open, and I'll go ahead and start pulling, and then we will get more into mirroring systems. Let's see. Hot. Oh, God, yesterday was kind of muggy, too. My husband and I went out to dinner, and it was like 82 or something outside, and I was just dying. It's dying. Let's see. Ariel. Okay. It's funny. It was telling me one deck, but not very strong. So you could have gotten a message from 2 different decks, but we went for the stronger one. And Andrea, perfect. That's all 3. Good morning, Andrea. So how have you guys been? How was your yesterday? Did anybody have any revelations as a result of talking about mirroring and projection? About maybe perhaps how your environment is interacting with you? Let's see, yesterday I told you guys this story about our session and how the weather and the people around us were all participating in that session. Ariel. You've been getting some big guidance, haven't you, Ariel? Now, have you been listening to it? So, the card that we pulled for you is called Hear the Ancient Ones. The indigenous peoples of the world are those who have lived in harmony with the land for countless generations. Among them are the elders whose knowledge and wisdom can teach us of our relationship with nature, of living a life of empathic awareness, and to better understand our role as caretakers of the earth. They can teach us the wisdom of taking only what we need and wasting little, and of honoring and all sacrifices made so that you may live and grow. Hear the wisdom of the ancient ones and learn from their knowledge, lore, and traditions. So it looks like it looks like you're really having a time right now of connecting in with some very deep wisdom. You know, in this card, I don't know if you can see all of the spiders that are in there that are hanging from his crown, his thorns. There's an owl above his head. There's a crescent moon. There's horns of the horned god, the mouth of the Ganga, right? In Indian mythology, they believe that there's actually a woman in the Ganga, and she is a great spirit, an ancient spirit that is teaching and supporting and cleansing. And so from her mouth flows the Ganga River. Well, there's a lot of symbolism in here, and there's deep roots. What else is in here? We've got some little vials of something. So really just taking in time to understand these little subtle pieces. I also know, and I just saw Hannah popped in, she just did a class on the ancient ones, connecting in with your ancestors, that I haven't attended yet, but I can't wait to. So this is a time to really check in with and feel and tap into those older energies. Good morning, Chris. And really feel down into those and see what the wisdom is that they're bringing you, because you're actually being guided Good morning, Shauna. I think that all of us are being guided by these incredibly ancient ancestors. However, one of the things that's important to keep in mind, see, it's impacting me right now, is that the ancient ones, they're not here to make us do things their way, but to remember their way. The new energy and consciousness that's coming through right now is actually asking us to let go of some of these belief systems that we have carried from so long ago, because they carry with them quite a bit of karma that we no longer need to subscribe to as well. The raw consciousness, for instance, says the age of the pyramids is done. We don't need to keep focusing on and trying to rebuild pyramids. So there's a lot of groups that, took that information from the raw consciousness as it was being delivered, and a whole movement came about of people making pyramids to meditate in and make pyramids to reside in. And yes, pyramids are amazing and they feel amazing. I used to hang out with a friend who had a pyramid room in the backyard. However, the time of the pyramids has passed. It's not time to do that. It's time for us to really recognize the power of the vessel itself, because external things can all be used against us. Good morning. Thank you, Wendy. They can all be turned against us. So don't rely so heavily upon the external, and come into the internal and allow that guidance to come in through you, not through all these other means, or through the concepts that are also part of the ancients, where we can only access them through one individual. You're welcome, Hannah. So that's what's coming through on that one. That was Ariel. Cheryl. Earth Magic. This is the deck by Stephen D. Farmer. Love his work. Is anybody else just really congested right now? Yes, I am all I need. Brian says we're at new vibrations. Take the new tools and new uses of old tools. Yeah. Allow them to show you a new way to interact with them. New guidance. It's really, really new stuff coming through right now. And the more we get anchored into the old, well, the harder it gets for us. Allergies. Yeah, allergies, energetically, we believe that allergies are unexpressed and stored emotions. They are a memory of a trauma or experience that we did not allow ourselves to fully express. And so when we have them, it's because it's the opportunity to release those stored emotions and stored beliefs. And so I have been wondering, I don't know that it's allergies in the sense that I'm not reacting like with the itchy eyes and the swollen. This is just this upper high congestion right at the back of my throat. I'm not sure what it is though. I haven't been able to tune quite in all the way to feel it out. We'll have to see. Polychrome Jasper helps with sinus congestion, has cooling and grounding. Okay, thank you. All right, and Ariel, you're feeling that right now. Yeah, definitely time. And this is a perfect follow-up to that. I love these cards. And I think if I remember correctly, we got this one not that long ago. And if we didn't, we got the same message from a different deck. So let's see. This is Wolf Instinct. Some of the strongest characteristics of our brother and sister wolves are loyalty, companionship, playfulness, and affection. They're exceptional parents and take great care of their young. We see similarities to wolves and domestic dogs, particularly in certain breeds. Yet these tamed and distant relatives have long ago transferred their loyalty and pack behavior to humans. Yet wolves are still carnivorous wild animals, surviving by seeking out whatever food is available that meets their dietary needs. This is instinctually driven and is the most basic and natural drive that all living things possess. Over the centuries, the encroachment of civilization into the wolves' natural territories and the periodic scarcity of game have prompted these beings to hunt whenever they could, which at times included a rancher's or farmer's cattle or sheep. This in turn has triggered a desire for revenge by those people, so that they hunt and kill, which has decimated their ranks. It's the so-called civilized world clashing with the world of the wild and instinctual. You've lost touch with your instinctual sensitivities, and it's the result of cultural and or religious prescriptions. Prescriptions, dating that anything wild and instinctual is threatening and therefore has to be controlled or eliminated. Now is the time to overcome these limited mindsets and tune in to these instinctual cues. Let the spirit of wolf be your teacher and call upon this benevolent being for help identifying what those specific cues are saying. Shed some of your inhibitions, with the only guideline being to do no harm. Experiment by stepping out of the straitjacket of familiar societal norms and listening to those senses in your gut that are trying to give you a message. It may be a warning or an urge to take action of some sort. Take some deep breaths and simply notice what your body sensations are telling you. Your mind will be the receiver of that information, and your body and mind can learn to work more closely with each other once again. I think this is exactly in alignment with listening to the ancient ones. Really letting go of the belief systems and the structure that has been created around these ideas is so important. If we are a person who has deep roots in a religious experience or a religious belief system, just remember to get back to the core message of that system. When you go back into the core messages and release the interpretations that have come through over the centuries via the various mouthpieces of those channeled informations, then you can free yourself from the cultural norms that have been use that information to oppress their culture. The reality is Jesus, Muhammad, Buddha, all of these prophets that we have, and all of those teachings, they come in pure and clean. It's what has been done with them. It is what has been done to change and to shift them into more appropriate or more powerful tools of oppression is what we need to shuck off and release ourselves from. The reality is that everyone who channels has a filter in place, even me. We have filters in place that are created by our cultural belief systems, our learning of from our own experience, from the belief systems that we've been raised around, and from what it takes in order to be allowed in our culture. So all of these things create filters for us. And when channeled information is coming through, it comes through our filters because that's a way to deliver it that's accessible to the current population. So right now we have many people who are channeling Mother Mary, the Christ consciousness. We have many that are channeling various archangel presences as well as alien or starkin presence. We have a lot of new information coming through. Exactly. And we have to let go of the way that it had to come through then in order to be applicable to the society that at that point was tribal and was still trying to find its way. Now we have found a way, and now it's time to allow deeper guidance to learn how to walk this new way, letting go. So those old consciousnesses, they are still here guiding. I remember actually, while I was still in training, I told my teacher that when I go and I meditate, after grounding and connecting, I would find myself standing at this curtain. It was like a big white curtain, and the curtain would be pulled back, and I would be invited within, and there would be these 3 men sitting inside this room. And they were like sitting on these white couches, and everything was white. And I had no idea who any of them were, but they would invite me to come in, and I would sit with them, and we would all talk, and mostly they would talk and I would listen. And they taught me so much information. And really, more than what they taught me of knowledge, they taught me a way, the way with which they discussed, the feeling of them being there together. That was the most powerful for me to learn and to feel. So I told my teacher about this, and she started to try to tap in and see who I was talking to, who is this council I was joining. And she started sending me all these pictures, and I had no idea who any of the people were because, I'm just that way. And after a while, she was sending me these pictures of this guy, and one of them I was like, oh, that's one of the guys that's in there. And she said, really? And I said, yeah, but he was a lot younger than I see him as a lot younger than in this picture. So she sent me another picture. And interesting that the feed is having problems right now. So she showed me his younger picture, and I was like, okay. And so then we found the next. She didn't tell me who it was, and then she sent me another picture, and I was like, yeah, that's the other guy. Again, he was younger than he is in this image. And so then she sent me a picture of the third guy, and he was much older than he was in the image. So it turned out that I was sitting with the Prophet Muhammad, with oh my gosh, his name just left me, Rumi, the poet Rumi, and Peter. So this was a trinity that was guiding me, and they still pull me in occasionally when I'm a little off course. They help me steer back in and come back into that right alignment. I've definitely had a few yelling matches with a couple of them. Not Rumi, but the other two. And I'm like, what are you doing? Because it's hard. It's hard to see how those religions have been used to really create some problems for people. Anyway, so that instinct. Use your instinct. Trust your instinct. Trust what you're getting, because it's more than just instinct. It's actually coming through from the divine to teach and support and help empower you in your life, to help guide you. And so it's going to be counter to what you're used to, because we're bringing in new stuff right now. That's what we're doing. Okay, so one more pull. Let's see. None of my cards want to go back in their boxes. Go back in your box. Get back. That's symbolic, isn't it? Get back in your box. All right. Let's see. You guys are probably going to hear me blow my nose in a minute because I just can't take it anymore. Excuse me. Oh, God. It has been like that all day. It's all last night and all yesterday too. Okay, so we've got a card pull for Andrea. Let's see. The goddesses want to talk to you, Andrea. I think it feels like we're getting on a theme with these cards. Sometimes they really do decide. It's just us talking. Good morning. Oh, I'm glad you could make it. Nivienne, right? Haha. I love that name. It's a beautiful name. All right. And Wendy, I'm so glad that aligned with you. You're welcome, Cheryl. It's weird. I'm not used to hearing myself in the headphones. It's so loud. Interesting. Oh, that's a mighty goddess. Wow. Okay. I might butcher her name, but let's see. Jessie says that God said, let there be mucus. And lo, the mucus was plentiful. Indeed, Jessie. Somebody told me that it was actually because I was going through a higher upgrade in pineal activation, and I kind of have a sense that might be true. All right, so here's who you got. Her name is Mahuika. She's the goddess of anger. The Maori fire goddess Mahuika lived in a flaming mountain. She was convinced by trickster Maui to light her magical fire, one by one, from every nail, her hands and feet. He played on her wrath by continually extinguishing each little flame and asking for more. Mahuika exploded in anger and caused an enormous fire on earth. When it burned out, magical sparks were saved inside the trees. The kindling sparks of wood friction are her symbol. The green high tiki figure symbolizes the first Maori gods from the stars. Mahuika cautions you to monitor your anger. If you feel people are rubbing you the wrong way, powerful fire will burn out of control quickly and destroy whatever is in its path. Anger is your scarcer fuel and adrenaline that must be used judiciously. Be wise and use your anger as motivation to spark you on your path. So one of the things that I'm getting about this, Andrea, is the part where they say that he played on her wrath by continually extinguishing her little flames and asking for more. And this is something that we have actually a lot of experience with, especially people who do work like us. We have people come to us all the time and want what we have, what we're channeling through, the information, the vibrational frequency, the feeling of our lives, the feeling of us. We have people coming to us and all they really want is just to see it or to feel it or to play with it. They have no interest in learning how to do for themselves, how to access their own flame, how to access their own power, their own source. They just want somebody else to do it for them. It's a pill-popping society, as my husband calls it. They're looking for solutions. They're looking to soothe their own discomfort. They're looking for entertainment. They're looking to find something to make them feel different from their moment of poor, sad, pathetic existence in their mind, right? There are a lot of people that live that way, and they attach themselves to us, people like us, because we are abundant and we're bountiful and we have infinite amounts of patience, right? So we give and we give and we give, and we have so many reasons to excuse and forgive and to give some more that we come up with for these people. And what we're not paying attention to is we are the ones who are not holding our fire as sacred. It's not them. They're only mirroring for us what we actually are doing to ourselves, okay? And that's the mirroring versus projection. So we are having to, this is something that's really an important piece for us to keep in mind. Yeah, so we have to remember that when people are coming to us and they're asking for the sacred pieces of ourselves, we are actually giving away a sacred piece of ourselves. One of the things I had to really learn was how to be more judicious about how I dispense my knowledge, dispense my speaking, dispense my guidance, dispense the wisdom that comes through me. What I found was that I was being bombarded by people who wanted that from me. And I felt, because I didn't have a clear path of service, I felt like, okay, that's my service. And my life was spent helping one person after another, after another, after another, after another. And most of them were coming under the guise of friendship. And when I stopped doing it that way and instead started doing Morning Oasis and said, okay, you know what? This information that I'm streaming because you're asking me is super powerful information. And it actually needs to be heard by everybody, not just you. This needs to be accessed by everybody. So if you want to ask me about that, you can ask me on Morning Oasis, where it can be recorded and it can be put up for everybody to hear and see. And that was the big transition point for me, and it happened last December. So this is still fresh for me too. And so after that, now when people contact me and they want to just talk with me or share with me, I tell them, hey, show up for Morning Oasis. Everybody needs that information. So creating ways in your life in which you have good conduits for your information, your channeling, your might, your sacredness to come through helps you to define and clarify how you want to bring that energy through. Andrea says that, yes, right now my patience is at a turning point. I feel angry and irritated because I've been spreading myself too thin. And, we often, and I'm not saying that you're doing this, Andrea, but many of us do end up feeling angry and resentful towards those who are asking from us. What I found for myself as well was that as I had no good boundaries with people outside of my house, I was making incredibly rigid boundaries with those inside my house. And so anytime my husband or son asked me for help or support, I was getting frustrated and irritated because I didn't feel like I could show that frustration and irritation towards the other people who were asking me for support. I couldn't say to them, don't message me at 1 o'clock in the morning. Don't call me at 7:30 in the morning. Don't show up on my doorstep without being invited. I didn't feel like I could say that because I felt like, oh, they're in need. I had all these excuses wrapped around it. Oh, they're really hurting. Oh, they're having trouble right now. I didn't want to be mean, right? So that was causing more discordance in my home than anything. And once I started getting really good, clear boundaries about, okay, you know what? Actually, Morning Oasis is where I show up for anybody who's willing to invest their time and show up as well. And I am here 100% while I'm doing this show. And I give everything that comes through, right? So I have that space that I've created. Okay, this is how I'm showing up for service. If you need service with me, you show up too, but this is when it's available. And if you can't show up here, then you can show up and you can watch it as a recording and get a lot of information and comfort and solace and connection that way. So when we are in a space where anger is burning us up, it is not time to try to change the external. It's time to change the internal and how we ourselves are showing up in our lives, how we are showing up in our communities, how we are giving. So thank you, Wendy. Thank you, Shauna. So that's what I'm feeling is important for you. And remember that person who's coming along and extinguishing the little bits of fire, they are serving you to show you how ridiculous that pattern is, how we cannot stay stuck in that same old pattern, that same old system that way. And that's leads us right into the discussion about mirroring. Now, one of the things that's tricky with mirroring is that we oftentimes have inbuilt all sorts of defense mechanisms to protect ourselves from seeing ourselves very clearly. We often will take the mirror, and it's just enough different, it's just enough filtered that we can easily excuse and dismiss everything it's trying to share with us. So let's see. Ariel says, I need to learn to set better boundaries with people outside my home. It's practice, right? And it's part of it is also recognizing your self-worth. Boundaries come from, the lack of boundaries come from a worth of self. I know my feed just stopped for a moment. Interesting. Jesse says, I must ask, did Jesus, Buddha, or Confucius have boundaries? So, Jesse and I have been having some interesting discussions about permission and boundaries. And, did they have boundaries? I don't know. I can't speak for them. What I can say is that Jesus died young. Buddha lived to an old age. And I don't know about Confucius, honestly. But I think just actually, when you start to really think about like the Jesus consciousness, he did have boundaries. He didn't have the same boundaries as everybody else. And that's another piece. So that's one other piece I want to share. Thank you for bringing that up, actually. That's great. We're not going to have the same boundaries as other people, okay? Because that's not what we're here to be. We're not here to just be like everybody else, in the sense we're here, if you're watching my show in general, most of the people that come into this space are people who are here to be lighthouses, beacons of some sort, here to help bring in the new information anchor it into the population, into the consciousness, and to serve to support transition from the old system into this newer system. That tends to be the people who come to me and who tend to fall into this line of work. So in order to do that, we have to be more open than others are. We have to be more allowing. We have to be more in the flow. If we are not in the flow, things start to get blocked up for us. We have illness. We have problems show up. I know for me, all this illness for the last 2 weeks has definitely been showing me some really important things and some important ways that I have not been caring for self and been caring more for others. So finding that balance again. So when I look at Jesus, yeah, he had boundaries. He certainly had boundaries about who he chose to bring into his inner circle, or he wouldn't have had a covenant of his core people. He would have let everybody be a part of that dinner table with him. He recognized the difference between those who were his apostles, those who were going to be continuing his teachings, versus those who were coming because they were the suffering masses and they just needed the love, or they just needed the guidance. If you don't have clear boundaries, then you can't actually distinguish what the needs of those that are coming to you are. You can't see what your role is to serve them. So we have to have those kind of boundaries around how we serve. And that's really what we're being taught in our personal lives as we come into more appropriate relationships with others to step into that service role. If you step into service without having appropriate boundaries around the self, around what the needs of the self are, then you are going to burn out. And we see those healers. There's a shit ton of them right now who are burning out and are quitting doing this work completely and are choosing to go and do other things because they're burnt out. They don't feel any return on it. There was even a woman who is a very powerful, beautiful healer just a few days ago posted and said, "That's it. I'm done. I'm not doing this work anymore because nobody's willing to show up for their appointments and nobody's willing to pay for this, and this is how I'm supporting myself." Her rant was a public rant. And so clearly that's not because that's not because of the people that she's been serving. That's because her boundaries weren't in place. For instance, I've got a cancellation policy. You schedule my time and you don't show up, well, you still need to pay me for my time because that's been time I've been created for you. Somebody else could have come into that time, or I could have done something else with that time. Practically every hour in my day is scheduled, whether it's scheduled for me, for my family, for my business, or for my spiritual practice and growth. It's all scheduled. And I live by my alarms, That's why I keep a constant journal, a log. This is what I'm accomplishing today. This is what I'm accomplishing today. So those are the kind of boundaries that are important, and we have to give ourselves permission to do that. Let's see. So he also gave the apostles direct teachings. The Mass got parables. Again, thank you for your response. You're welcome, Jesse. And it's true. That's very true. We have to also be aware of how what we're giving is being received. Are the masses capable? The masses would not have been capable of learning the teachings directly that he was giving to his apostles, right? But they were able to take the stories. So that's one of the big differences. Brian says, "I saw another yesterday say goodbye to do other projects." Exactly. The other piece of that, here is the other piece of that. In part, it's actually a really good thing that they're leaving, because they tend to be, those who are leaving are the ones who are really rigidly stuck in a belief modality, and they cannot see beyond that modality, and they're not willing to open up to what they actually came here to be. I was doing all of the, not all, but I almost got myself all caught up with putting Morning Oasis onto our YouTube channel, and editing the Morning Oasis on Facebook so you can see what their titles and their subjects are. I've been really bad about that since last month. I'll read that in a second. So one of the things that I reposted in the group, I believe, is either in the group or on my private page, was a show that we did about licensing and who can give you permission to be you. Like, who's going to license you and give you the certificate to show up as who you are and who you came here in the creation to be? So it's important to remember that those people who are also slipping out and moving back and coming out of the forefront as healers are those people that were too rigidly stuck in their own belief systems. And that is what really is breaking right now for them. They have to let that break. And so really, should they be serving others? Should they be teaching outdated beliefs and outdated modalities? I don't know, that's not my job, but it certainly doesn't seem to be working for them. So if you have a strong identification with the modality in which you work in, a strong identification with the belief system, you're going to find things breaking up against it. That's also part of the anger. The anger is coming from the breaking of beliefs, right? Because that goddess believed that she was supposed to keep sparking her fire for this guy no matter how much he asked. So that's a belief that she's supposed to serve just because she's been asked. And that was a huge, huge belief that I had to break. I get asked for so much from people that it's not my job to do. And if I can't say, no, that's not my job, then I'm serving somebody. You can't go out and work out for somebody to lose weight for them. It doesn't work. They have to do that for themselves. They have to work out. They have to decide that they don't want to eat in the same patterns. They have to decide they don't need to be protected by the shielding anymore. Nobody can do that for them. Just like nobody can do the energetic work that's necessary to be able to show up in service for anyone else. So again, just all of those pieces are all coming together. I have a piece of jewelry clicking against my mic. Oh, interesting. You know, I'm not really even wearing anything except for my necklace. Let me move that to the side. Let's see. There was quite a few different... I'll come over here. There's been a lot, and I know you guys have such wonderful, valuable information, so I really want to make sure I get it. So Brian says, oh yeah, I saw that. They will fall away. And the new we are bringing in will flow forward. Yeah, Sean, I agree. I think that it is going to be about creating space for the new to come in. Brian says he was a being is all there is type Moji Fuller. I'm not sure who that is. You have a piece of jewelry, got that. Sometimes the best way is no help. Exactly. Isn't anger the result of fear created when one's rock-solid beliefs begin to crumble against the tide of reality? So I mentioned this before. My husband's therapist said he calls anger as not really actually an emotion in and of itself. It's fear plus another emotion. So I would agree with you that anger is a part of I think that that's one of the results when we are afraid to lose the belief system, or we have beliefs built into that system that define our worth or our value. When those things are all being confronted and broken, it's definitely going to show up as anger. And let's see, Andrea, yes, I finally had to realize I can't do others' work. Cheryl, I was just discussing with a neighbor this morning about ego involved in helping. Exactly. Hannah says, on the tree of life, severity, cutting ties, is the balance to compassion, mercy. I have to review this piece all the time. Yes, exactly. Cutting ties and mercy are very important to remember in that balancing flow of things. So, this is one of those great conversations. I love how much you guys are all sharing about this. Let me come down over here because it's harder to read over there, those little comments. Okay, so so this anger piece is really actually a powerful gift. If we can transition our thoughts away from being something that is hurtful to us, or that something has happened to us, when we get angry, pause for a minute, and recognize what's happening is we are being given the gift of breaking a belief that we hold about ourselves. that I'm only of value if I'm serving, that I'm only able to be myself when I'm doing for others. What other beliefs do you guys think would be being confronted? Go ahead and throw out what beliefs you recognize now when your anger has been coming up for you as an individual. Because look how many people in here are sharing the same space with each other, that are in this place of, oh, what is compassionate and what is necessary, right? We have to be judicious in our cutting, but we also must cut with a clarity so that we don't have fear. You know, if the pruner is out there afraid of hurting the tree with every cut, then he's not going to trim the tree enough so that when the storms come or the rain comes or the snow comes, that the boughs can't support themselves. So we have to be aware of that part as well. If you don't receive what I want to give you, you don't love me. Exactly. That's a total belief. Brian, I love that you brought that up. And it's a big one that blocks people. They assume that because somebody can't receive their guidance or their wisdom, that they aren't loved, that they aren't held, that they aren't respected, that they aren't valued. My husband all the time questions anything I say. So I got to the point where I wasn't sharing my wisdom or guidance with him. I was like, forget him. He doesn't believe me anyway, right? So then we were sitting at breakfast just the other day. I think it was the day before yesterday. We were sitting at breakfast, and I think I brought this up with you guys. He said to me, Jessie, you told me, I got this from you a long time ago, that to be aware of the story we tell around the words and to shift them so that we aren't feeling so upset by them. So he was asking me, the context of this is, he was asking me about if I felt disappointment when I found out there wasn't feta. Like, he gets really disappointed if there's no feta at a restaurant. He doesn't use feta. He doesn't order it with his food, but he loves the taste of it, but he never thinks to order it. And so he found out there was feta, and he got so excited, and he said, oh my God, that's so amazing. I'm so excited right now. And then he said, Jessie, do you ever have that where you're at a restaurant and you feel deep disappointment because they don't have something that you want? And I was like, no, I never have that. Why would I look at what's on the menu and see what is it that excites me about what's here. How do I want to receive from this space? And so we were talking about how different these two viewpoints were. And I said something about how we're just coming from opposite perspectives, but that opposite word was a huge trigger for him, and he felt judged. He felt like I was saying that I'm the opposite of you, therefore I am better than, right? And he felt like I was judging. And then he was like, Jessie, we're not supposed to put value on things like that. We're not supposed to put the value on the words like that. And really, he's telling me what I already know, right? He's repeating what he needs to hear at this point. And as he's going back over and over, because he thinks I have placed value upon and a less than value upon the words and the belief that he holds than he has. So he had to go through it himself. I sat back and I was just kind of observing. And what I took from him is, wow, he actually listened to that. Wow, he actually is using this and applying it and playing with it. And it's not the way I use it, and it's certainly not how I view things, but he's working on shifting himself. So oftentimes people may not take from our guidance or our wisdom or our knowledge what we think they need to take from it. They take from it what they need, right? And they use it the way they need. And if we're attached and our sense of value and sense of self is attached to how they receive us, well, that's a sticky wicket, because you're going to find yourself not being valued enough. Why? Because the mirror is reflecting your own lack of value of the self in the first place. And the external is only showing you the internal value lack. Because if you value yourself and your wisdom and you know what you're speaking is truth, you know that what you're speaking is of deep, deep value, it doesn't matter how it's received. It's flowing. So it's really important to remember that as well. There was a lot that got commented on in there. I love it, you guys. I love it. Your own doubt about your beliefs would be my guess. Yeah, perhaps you need to practice patience with yourself. Expectations get in the way. Alternatively, I find those moments of opportunities to convince as well. Yeah, we have to be really careful about convincing. Convincing means that we believe that what we are saying is true only if the mirror says that it's true too. That is another sticky wicket, right? I remember when my husband and I were still in huge conflict with each other. We were both seeing a marriage. We were seeing a marriage counselor, individual counselors, and he was in group therapy. Our marriage was on the rocks, and we were really, really, really struggling. So we came to this point where I realized I was like screaming my truth at him and so angry that he wasn't seeing how damaging his behavior was. I wasn't seeing how damaging my behavior and my need for him to validate my perspective and viewpoint was, by the way. But I needed him. I had this idea in my mind that it's only true what I'm feeling, what I feel, what I'm experiencing, that's only true if he says, oh, you were right, Jesse, I was abusive, I was mean, I did do these things. So I had this idea set in my head. That's the only way it was really be true and I could get over it, was for him to accept and take responsibility or accountability for it. That left me in an extremely miserable mindset for probably 10 years. Honestly. And there was this moment when my therapist asked me, why do you need him to validate it? You have all these other people telling you it's true, which was true. I did. I had friends supporting my perspective. I had my mother supporting my perspective. I had all sorts of people who were like, yeah, he's awful. It's not your fault. He needs to take accountability, right? So I had built around me a mirror that proved all my filters true. And what was upsetting to me was that he wasn't proving it true. He was the one who was supposed to do it. An external responsibility of internal value and worth, right? So the minute that I realized he's never going to be able to see these things. I'm not even actually seeing myself very clearly because I've completely shifted my view from the internal to the external. I no longer am I have given myself permission to not look at me because he is so clearly the problem. Have you ever looked at a mirror and noticed, like you'll look at the mirror every morning and you just see the reflection, you see the reflection, and then all of a sudden you realize there's a toothpaste spot right there. And then you look more closely and you start looking at the mirror itself and not the reflection, and you see all this film and toothbrush splatter and who knows what else. But suddenly you realize how dirty the mirror is. You didn't watch the mirror get that dirty. It suddenly appeared that way to you once you began to shift away from expecting the reflection to show you and really looking at the mirror itself. So that's what's important about doing the self-work is, yeah, the reflection is what gets you to look, right? But shift away from thinking the reflection has to show you back something and look at what is there in the first place. That's the internal work. That's how we take the mirroring system and really bring it internally. Andrea says it took me 10 years to realize I was in an abusive relationship. That's really common, and it often comes from because we were raised in an abusive environment. So it's normal to us. That's what's comfortable. That's what feels right. If all we ever looked at was a toothbrush spotted mirror, then we would not feel comfortable in the nakedness and exposedness of a completely clean mirror. So this is another important piece as well. When you find yourself judging the reflection in the mirror, that is definitely time to pause. And that's what I was doing. I was living on the judgment of my husband. I was living on the judgment of his behavior and validating my own behavior, my own outbursts, my own lack of control of my own temper, because why should I have to control it? He's an abuser. And, it got to the point where I lost all power with him. He was like, yeah, whatever, Dusty, I'm an abuser, whatever. you know. And he felt completely dismissed, like he could never get any information in because I had so defined him as the abuser. Exactly. Cheryl says that she couldn't even receive the apology when it comes because we've so fully defined their relationship with us and what they're allowed to show up as. And the reality was that my husband and I have a huge difference in the way we communicate. Not only is he from India and I'm from America, two different languages as our root thought processes, he also he's an engineer. He's much more mechanistic and more linear in his thinking. Does that mean it's bad? No. We actually live in a mechanistic, linear functioning society. So it's not bad. He's in alignment with the rest of the human race, right? And I tend to be different from that. I'm not mechanistic or linear in my thinking. So I have to remember, and it's my own frustration at being expected to come back in. I realized as I started shifting away from thinking of him as the problem, how many problems of my own I was just transferring onto him. For instance, when he asks me to do something or accomplish something in the house, I was getting frustrated and irritated, and he was managing it more and more because he wanted to set his expectations, because that's what he needs. And I was just so annoyed. I'm like, don't make me put down a friggin' timeline for when I'm going to do the blah, 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 right? But the reality was, I just don't like working in that system. So I was transferring my dislike into his abuse. I don't like it, so therefore you're forcing me, you must be abusing me. When the reality is he's blind and he can't do it. And the house needed to have these things done. That's maintenance of the house. That's caring for the house that I didn't want to do, right? So we often, when we get into that cycle of really just accusing the mirror and blaming the mirror entirely, of being the problem, we are missing all of the parts that we play in creating the dynamic where the problem is blossoming. We're building the garden, okay? So that's another important piece of that. We're going to talk more about mirroring and projection. That's kind of what we're going to cover over this week, because I do think this is a huge, huge struggle for all of us. Yeah, something you work with your children. And I do too. I actually talk to my son quite a bit about the mirror and how to work with it and how to actually use it for internal work, because he gets very focused. And I think it's wonderful that you're working with your child about that. Our children teach us so much by what we teach them and how they receive it and what they have to share with us in response. It's quite a powerful experience. I love that you're doing that with her. Okay, so we're at the end of our hour today. I know we didn't have a meditation today. I'm getting the sense that our meditation work is so powerful that it's not coming in on a daily basis right now. So when you feel the need to have that support, remember, there are over 100 morning Oasis shows, okay? And all back through, there are so many powerful meditations. If you're not sure which ones to go to, use your compass to figure out. If you haven't used the compass tool before and you're new to the show, go back and look for the episode called The Compass. It's back in December, and it's a powerful tool to help you be able to determine that. I think that's everything. If anybody has anything they want to say in part, he thinks if he doesn't like something, he's being bullied. Yeah, my son has a struggle with the bullying thing too. He actually has been bullied. So there's some trauma and emotions that are being pulled forward by that. So, I mean, with my own son. So it could be that there has been some inappropriate behavioral, but there also is that narcissistic self space that thinks everybody's supposed to agree with and love and value and respect them. And so that's part of the lesson of going, oh, there are other selves that are just as important. Brian says, if anyone wants to do a group game of Pass the Energy Ball, I will be on in about 10 minutes after the Morning Oasis is over. Hey, there you go. If you want to continue and play with some energy balls with Brian, he's going to be working on in about 10 minutes. So go for that. That sounds like a lot of fun, Brian. I wish I could join you. Unfortunately, I have some work I have to accomplish. Love you guys. Thank you so much for showing up. Everything that you guys shared today was super powerful and important for everybody else. So thank you for your contribution. And I will see you guys tomorrow. Bye. Have a great rest of your day.